Good morning. Oh wait, are we not live
Hi.
yet? Are we
Wait,
live or are we
I
not live
think
yet? I think
so.
this always
You are
happens.
live. You're live.
Oh, great. I was waiting for, my entry music and my curtain to rise. Good morning. Happy Book Buzz Day. It's Thursday. Changing it up this week.
Yes, I'll tell everyone I was frantically writing my scripts yesterday morning because I forgot that it's today.
Me too.
But this morning they were done, so that was good.
Ahead of the game.
Yes.
Well, I'm Jennifer Rubens.
And I'm Maureen Meekins.
And I'm Sharnell Johnson.
Happy fall. You guys know this already, but these are our PRH Morning Buzz keys to look out for. So HC is hardcover, TR is trade paperback, LP is large print, ebook is electronic book. And our favorite is the orange circle with the E. That means the eGalley is available for most of these, if not all. So we hope that you have lots and lots to read after we're done today. And of course, the DN is audio download and the CD is compact disc. And we do have some available on CD that we'll be sharing today. I feel like we're on a real talk show today, guys. I have my Penguin sponsored mug. I'm
I have
official.
my Dunkin' Donuts sponsored cup.
Oh wow, maybe they should sponsor us.
Somebody
Donuts
tag
delivered in
Dunkin'
the middle.
Donuts.
I mean,
So hopefully many of you were already able to join this webinar that took place a couple of weeks ago. We celebrated, well, it's hard to use the word celebrate sometimes in the context of these banned books. But we are celebrating. We want you to take note and we want you to hear from some of these incredible authors who have unfortunately experienced censorship firsthand and have a lot to say and a lot to share about ideas, how we can, as communities, as librarians, as publishers, as citizens, how we can fight back against this rise in censorship. And there's lots of wonderful advice and conversation that took place in this webinar. And we hope that if you missed it, you will view the archive footage. I have to say, I had the privilege this week of visiting a library in New York City, and I loved still seeing their banned book display on display. And I'm just really grateful to be surrounded by so many people who are taking action and who are giving voice to this rising issue and teaching us how we can all rise up to this challenge. So we hope that you'll tune in if you didn't already. And the URL is on the screen. And we'll also send it around in the wrap up.
And it is Latinx and Hispanic Heritage Month. So join us in celebrating authors, creators, and trailblazers whose stories are redefining identity and shaping today's culture, from music to politics and everything in between. You can browse book collections highlighting remarkable novels, memoirs, cookbooks, and more by visiting tinyurl.com/I am La Cultura. And you can share these incredible stories year-round using the hashtag I am La Cultura.
join us for our next Lunch and Learn Culinary and Cooking edition, where we'll be joined by the author of Dinner with the President, Alex Prudhomme, and Rebecca Fetterman, the Assistant Director of the General Research Division and the Center for Research in Humanities at the New York Public Library. And you can visit the link on the screen to learn more and to register.
We know many of you have joined us before for Day of Dialogue. We're thrilled to be participating again, so be sure to sign up. It's free, and it's taking place October 20th. We have amazing authors who will be joining us, and we just are so thrilled to be able to celebrate their books and librarians, and we can't wait to have you join us. So please register. And what's very cool, if you don't already know, is that a lot is happening on the day, but then if you want to go back and revisit or check out the booths a little more, they do remain available after the event for 3 months. So you really have access to just such a plethora of amazing talks and book information. And so we hope that you'll sign up and won't miss out.
Join us on Wednesday, October 26th at 2 p.m. for our Big Books from Small Presses webinar. We'll be joined by some of our client publishers, including Seven Stories, Catapult, and many more, as we highlight forthcoming fiction and nonfiction for adults. And just visit tinyurl.com/small presses webinar to learn more. And then Library Journal and School Library Journal are hosting their 6th annual LibraryCon Live event on November 17th. Please visit tinyurl.com/LJ LibraryCon 2022 to learn more.
Say that URL 3 times.
I know.
And then we also are so excited. We have another book and author festival coming up, this time our winter edition. So hopefully you've joined us before. We last had one in the spring, and there's so much to share that we've got to do it twice a year. So on December 8th, I cannot believe we're almost like
Oh my God.
the real winter months, although I guess technically that's not winter yet, but it feels like it. So we're in it, you guys, and December 8th is right around the corner. And so we hope you'll join us. We're very eagerly planning lots of special author visits and panels, and it's all virtual and it's all free, and you're not going to want to miss it. So please join us. The tiny URL is on the screen, tinyurl.com/winter B&A festival.
And
I'm scared.
okay, I don't know about you guys, but this is my favorite season, so I'm very excited to talk about our first ever
I'm
horror
ready for you,
sampler.
Maureen.
What do you have?
My witch's hat.
The witch's hat. This sampler
Love
is
it.
Things, but I'm ready for you. Go ahead.
it's filled with books that are guaranteed to keep you up at night. It's got stories about graveyards, haunted houses, a serial killer,
Oh
and
no.
even the vengeful ghosts of a mother-in-law. I'm reading that one right now. It's called Mother Thing. It's great so far. Um, and I don't know if you know what horror book you should read, so you can find out by taking our quiz at tinyurl.com/horror reads quiz. It will list off chilling first lines from horror novels, and based on your reaction to the line via multiple choice, it'll match you up with the horror book that fits you best. So it'll be like real horror to something that just kind of dips your toes in and gets you warm. I took it and I got Daphne by Josh Mallerman. It's his new one, and I read it and it wasn't wrong. I did enjoy it. So take the quiz.
And I have to say, Maureen, I really appreciated you really considered all types in
I
this quiz,
did.
because there was even a question. I forgot exactly how you worded it, but I felt really seen. It was for people who are afraid of horror.
I listened to the people, you in our department. I thought
There's
about you
something
while
for
I
you.
was making it. Yes.
Take the quiz. All right, so now we're going to segue from horror to mysteries and thrillers. And I think that we should all take a little trip, you guys. Are you ready? We're going to take a little drive to Vermont, to the high stakes Vermont maple syrup industry. And I have to have my mittens, you guys, because I don't want Bernie to be disappointed. So I have my mittens, and we're going to feel the burn. Yes, you heard that right. There's a Bernie Sanders mystery. As I said, set in the high stakes Vermont maple syrup industry. I can't believe I didn't bring maple syrup over here for this. I mean, I really failed with the props this time. But who knew that fighting for a living wage could be so deadly? Bernie Sanders and his Gen Z intern are drawn into a murder investigation in a small Vermont town in this hilarious spin on cozy mysteries from the New York Times bestselling author of Hope Never Dies, an Obama Biden mystery. So, I mean, you guys, this is what we've all been waiting for, right? Fall is
Obviously, yes.
bursting out all over Vermont. And while the rest of Congress enjoys its recess, Senator Bernie Sanders has returned to his beloved home state for a weekend of events. But his hopes for a quiet homecoming are dashed when the lifeless body of a community banker with ties to Big Maple is found in Lake Champlain, and a trail of syrup leads directly to one of the senator's oldest friends. So if the unlikely duo can't solve the mystery of the Maple murderer before they strike again, Bernie's lifelong fight for justice may come to an unplanned end. So I am really excited. Andrew Schaefer, of course, is the New York Times bestselling author of the Obama Biden mysteries, including Hope Never Dies and Hope Rides Again, which are he also had a presidential satire, The Day of the Donalds, and over a dozen other humorous works of genre fiction, from mystery to horror. And this is just going to be such a loving twist on a beloved political figure. And I think that, it's perfect for fall. It's perfect for this season. We love cozy mysteries, and we love what Andrew's done with this fun twist on totally fictional mysteries featuring real life characters. And of course, this book would not be complete without recipes. So there's also real recipes from Eagle Creek's Vermont Country Shed, including Vermont cheddar mac and cheese, Feel the Burn maple sriracha hot sauce, and more. So get your mittens and get your orders in for Feel the Burn.
I'm obsessed with that cover anyway, so like it's the mittens just take it over the top for me, so it's great.
Had to do it.
All about the mittens.
Yes. Well, next we have something a little bit different. This is We Knew All Along. Writing as Mina Hardy, New York Times bestseller, Megan Hart delivers a twisted tale of domestic suspense where no one is who they seem, and the skeletons in the closet are all too real. Blame the booze, her shaky marriage, her troubled son, or 1,000 other things. Joanne Jordan has one thing on her mind when she attends her class reunion, and that's making sure her old crush, Christian Campbell, sees exactly what he lost all those years ago. A late night, a hotel room, a rekindled flame that burns even hotter than it did back then. What could go wrong? Everything. The night with Christian isn't the first secret Julianne has kept from her husband Ken, so one more shouldn't be much harder, except that Christian shows up without warning, seemingly determined to mess up Julianne's life in any way he can. Worse than that, he seems to have set his sights on charming her son Eli and befriending her husband. Revenge isn't so sweet when it bites you back, but Julianne is determined to keep Christian from ruining everything she's worked so hard to keep safe, including her son. Fighting to keep it all from spiraling out of control, Julianne discovers Christian is not the man he claims to be. When darker secrets emerge, even closer to home, Julianne takes the chance to turn the tables on him. The more Julianne digs for the truth, the uglier and deadlier it gets. That one seems really good. Super excited. Too many on my TBR right now.
That sounds like a lot of plot twists.
Yes.
There is a lot of opportunity. I'm very excited to talk about this next book, The Shards from Bret Easton Ellis, because I've been a fan of his since, I guess, middle school when I read The Rules of Attraction like 10 times, which I don't recommend for any middle schooler, but it was one of my favorite books. It's a story about the end of innocence and the perilous passage from adolescence into adulthood, set in a vibrantly fictionalized Los Angeles in 1981, tracking a group of privileged high schoolers as a serial killer begins targeting teenagers throughout the city. It's a mesmerizing fusing of fact and fiction, the real and the imagined, that brilliantly explores the emotional fabric of life at 17. Gripping, sly, and suspenseful, deeply haunting, and often darkly funny, the way that Bret Easton Ellis writes. The Shards is Ellis at his best, and I'm sure fans both old and new will come to this the way they did to American Psycho, so watch the holds on this one for sure.
Where are your props for this book, Maureen? I'm scared.
I don't think I can show those. I should have just held up my collection of Bret Easton Ellis books. I have like 2 editions of each book upstairs. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Well, moving on to Stone Cold Fox by Rachel Collar Croft. So this is for readers of My Lovely Wife, The Lies I Tell, Darling Rose Gold, Luckiest Girl Alive, fans of con artist stories, and rich people behaving badly. I feel like my Feel the Burn props are no longer appropriate for this. I should have brought, jewels to put on during this one. So anyway, a perfectly wicked debut thriller about an ambitious woman who, after a lifetime of conning alongside her mother, wants to leave her dark past behind and marry the heir to one of the country's wealthiest families. Like any enterprising woman, Bee knows what she's worth, and she's determined to get all she deserves. It just so happens that what she deserves is to marry rich. So she chooses her ultimate target, a dull, blue-blooded man named Colin Case, and she's ready to deploy all her tricks one last time. But of course, she has to get the approval of his family, and particularly his childhood best friend. So she goes toe to toe with this woman, Gail. And what begins as an amusing cat and mouse game quickly develops into a dangerous pursuit of the grisly truth. So this is a thriller with a wink. It's got a great narrator's voice. It makes me also very excited for the audiobook as well, because she's unrepentant, she's sly, she's self-aware, and even at times hilarious. And this really reveals complex relationships between mothers and daughters, girlfriends, and enemies. And also what's really fun is that this author is a screenwriter. She's a film and TV writer whose most recent feature, Torn Hearts, was recently released. It's a female-driven horror film set in the world of country music that starred Katie Seagal, in case you caught that. And we're just really excited because I just feel like these con stories are so intriguing. They're popping up more and more, from Elizabeth Holmes to Anna Delvey. There's just such an endless fascination with the art of the con. And I think this is super fun because it is fictional. So you can really kind of, root for this person, and also be intrigued and horrified and in love with them all at the same time. It's playful, it's ironically humorous, and it asks the question, who really is the villain here?
And then we have The Secrets of Hartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden. This is a gripping and atmospheric debut that's at once a chilling Gothic mystery and a love letter to Victorian fiction. So we are all about the ambiance here. It's 1852, and Margaret Lennox, a young widow, attempts to escape the shadows of her past by taking a position as governess to an only child, Lewis, at an isolated country house in the west of England. But Margaret soon starts to feel that something isn't quite right. There are strange figures in the dark, tensions between servants, and an abandoned east wing that no one will enter. Even stranger is the local gossip surrounding Mrs. Eversham, Lewis's widowed mother, who is deeply distrusted in the village. Lonely and unsure who to trust, Margaret finds distraction in a forbidden relationship with the gardener. But as Margaret's history threatens to catch up with her, it isn't long before she learns the truth behind the secrets of Hartwood Hall. This book is for readers that love that classic Victorian setting and fans of Gothic fiction like Sarah Waters' The Paying Guest, Simone St. James novels, or Sarah Penner's The Lost Apothecary. And I definitely get some turn of the screw vibes here, so there are a lot of great comps for your patrons.
And last on this slide is All That Is Mine, I Carry With Me. One afternoon in November 1975, 10-year-old Miranda Larkin comes home from school to find her house eerily quiet. Her mother is missing. Nothing is out of place. There's no sign of a struggle. Her mom's pocketbook remains in the front hall in its usual spot. So begins a mystery that will span a lifetime. What happened to Jane Larkin? Investigators suspect Jane's husband, a criminal defense attorney. Surely Dan Larkin would be an expert in outfoxing the police. But no evidence is found linking him to a crime, and the case fades from the public's memory, a simmering, unresolved mystery. Jane's 3 children, Alex, Jeff, and Miranda, are left to be raised by a man who may have murdered their mother. 2 decades later, the remains of Jane Larkin are found. The investigation is awakened. The children are now grown, are forced to choose sides, with their father or against him, guilty or innocent. And what if they're all wrong? A tale about family, family secrets and vengeance, but also family love and growing up. All That Is Mine, I Carry With Me masterfully grapples with the primal question: when does loyalty reach its limit?
So now we're going to move on to biography and memoir. And we're going to kick it off with someone who I think many of you might even feel like he's a friend of yours, right? Will Schwalb, I want to say his name correctly, Schwalb, wrote The End of Your Life book club, which still has stuck with me after all of these years. It spent 12 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It was in LA Times and USA Today best book. It went on to sell more than like 200,000 copies, I believe, across all formats. I mean, it's just a huge, huge hit. And we're so thrilled that he's back with a book that's actually not about books this time, but he really knows how to connect with all of us in such an intimate way. And this one, of course, is called We Should Not Be Friends, the story of a friendship. And so he's diving into this deeply personal story about an unlikely but sustaining friendship. When he was a junior at college, he'd already met everyone that he cared to know, right? He had the theater people, he had writers, he had visual artists, he had conflict majors, and he felt like he knew exactly who he wanted to avoid, which was the jocks. And then that changed dramatically when he collided with someone named Chris Maxey, who was known to just about everyone as Maxie. And he was physically imposing, loud, a star wrestler who was determined to become a Navy SEAL, where he would later serve for 6 years. And thanks to the strangely liberating circumstances of a little known secret society at Yale, where they went to school, they forged a bond that would become a mainstay of each other's lives as they repeatedly lost and found each other and themselves in the years after graduation. And I love that, I think in a book like this that gets so specific about their relationship, we're all going to connect to this in our own way and think about our own friendships that we've had throughout our lives. And it's just a really joyful testament to the miracle of human connection and how we meet people that we don't always expect to have lifelong friendships with. And if we can get past our preconceptions, we might find some of our greatest friends. So we're really looking forward to this. And you know, it's just going to be a really beautiful story about friendship that I think book clubs will love to discuss, and families will love to discuss, and it'll just be a really beautiful read or listen.
And then up next is Empress of the Nile by Lynn Olson. In the 1960s, the world's attention was focused on a nail-biting race against time. 50 countries contributed nearly $1 billion to save a dozen ancient Egyptian temples built during the height of the pharaoh's rule, from drowning in the floodwaters of the gigantic New Aswan High Dam. But the massive press coverage of this unprecedented rescue effort completely overlooked the gutsy French archaeologist who made it all happen. Without the intervention of Christine Daroche Noblecourt, the temples, including the Metropolitan Museum's Temple of Dender, would be at the bottom of a huge reservoir. It was a project of unimaginable size and complexity that required the fragile sandstone temples to be dismantled stone by stone and rebuilt on higher ground. A willful, real-life version of Indiana Jones, Daroche Noblecourt refused to be cowed by anyone or anything. As a member of the French resistance in World War II, she had survived imprisonment by the Nazis. In her fight to save the temple, she defied two of the most daunting leaders of the post-war world, Egyptian President Abdel Nasser and French President Charles de Gaulle. As she told one reporter, "You don't get anywhere without a fight, you know." Yet, Daroche Noblecourt was not the only woman who played a crucial role in this endeavor. Uh, the other was Jacqueline Kennedy, America's new First Lady, who persuaded her husband to call on Congress to help fund the rescue effort. After a century and a half of Western plunder of Egypt's ancient monuments, Daroche Noblecourt had done the opposite. She helped preserve a crucial part of its cultural heritage and, just as important, made sure it remained in its homeland. It's a fascinating story, and of course, I had
That
no
is
idea.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Now for something a little different. The minute I read or heard this title, Goodbye to Clocks Ticking, as perhaps it does for many of you, it immediately brings up, of course, the very famous monologue from Thornton Wilder's Our Town, when Emily says goodbye, when she goes back to visit her world and says goodbye to everything, including to clocks ticking. And this is a memoir about how we live while dying by Joseph Moninger. And I will say he is still alive to this day, thankfully, right now. And he has a video that he released about this book that we just added to our Meet the Author playlist on YouTube, so you can hear from him directly. that this is an emotional and surprisingly uplifting journey of truly seeing and appreciating all that life has to offer in the year which for him follows his terminal diagnosis. So this will make you cry, not unsurprisingly, but it'll also make you smile. And just a little bit about what prompted him to write this. So after 32 years of teaching, Joe, who was an avid outdoorsman in robust health, was looking forward to his retirement. And 3 days after his last class, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he had not smoked for more than 30 years. And he was told that he would likely be dead by Labor Day, and he got this diagnosis in May. But there was a new miracle drug that has given him more time. And he went to his writing desk and he started to process what was occurring. And he realized that he was writing an account of this year after the diagnosis. And so now it's been over a year. He's still here to tell his story. And we are so lucky to be able to read it. This is truly a work of wisdom and insight. It's it's page turning, it's suspenseful, and just so important to really be given this opportunity, for all of us to really share and discuss what this is like, and to really, you know, be grateful for the world, and what we have while we have it. And as you might guess, I think this is for readers of When Breath Becomes Air, The Year of Magical Thinking, and it's just a really powerful reflection from an already beloved author, and a really poignant journey that I hope you'll all want to go on with him. So Goodbye to ClockSticking comes out in March.
And then next we have The Other Family Doctor. Karen Fine always knew that she wanted to be a vet and wasn't going to let anything stop her. Not her allergy to cats, not the fact that in the 80s, vet medicine was still a mostly male profession. Inspired by her grandfather, a compassionate doctor who paid house calls to all of his human patients, Dr. Fine preserved and brought her grandfather's principles into her own practice, which emphasizes the need to understand her patients' stories to provide the best care possible. And in The Other Family Doctor, Dr. Fine shares all of these touching, joyful, heartbreaking, life-affirming tales that make up her career as a vet. There's the feral cat who becomes a creature out of a fable when he puts his trust in a young vet to heal his injured paw. The pot-bellied pig who grows too big to fit in the car, but remains a cherished part of the family. The surprising colony of perfectly behaved ferrets, the beloved aging pet who gives her people the gift of accompanying them on one final family vacation, and the dog who saves his owner's life in a most unexpected way. Woven into Dr. Fine's stories are, of course, also the stories of her own pets, the birds, cats, and dogs who have taught her the most valuable lessons, how caring for the animals in our lives can teach us to better care for ourselves, especially when life seems precarious.
And Undercooked by Dan Adut is a collection of hilarious essays about how food became one man's obsession and coping mechanism, and how it came to rule and sometimes ruin his relationships, from the Cobra Kai actor, stand-up comic, and host of Food Network's Raid the Fridge. Despite an impressive resume as an actor and writer, Dan Adut realized that food has been through the through line in most important moments of his life. Growing up as a middle child, Adut struggled to find his place in the family until he and his father discovered their shared love for la gourmandise. But when the tragic death of his brother pushed his parents to strengthen their Jewish faith and adopt a strictly kosher diet, Adut and his father lost that savored connection. To fill the absence left by his brother and father, Adut began to obsess over food and make it central in all his relationships. This, he admits, is probably crazy, but it makes for good stories. Hence, Undercooked. From breaking up with girlfriends over dietary restrictions to hunting just off the Long Island Expressway, which I'm trying to imagine. If anyone knows the LIE, I'm like, who's going hunting off the LIE?
Oh man, I'm scared.
Yeah, watch it, close your windows. To savoring his grandmother's magical food that was his only tactile connection to his family's home country of Iran, to jetting off to Italy to dine at one of the world's best restaurants only to send the risotto back. A dude's a dude's droll observations on his unconventional adventures bring an absurdly funny yet heartfelt look at what happens when you let your stomach be your guide. This book is for readers of Food, a Love Story by Jim Gaffigan, and for fans of Colin Jost, Ali Wong, and Tiffany Haddish. And next we have Mott Street by Ava Chin. From the winner of the MFK Fisher Book Prize and New York Public Library Coleman Fellow comes a sweeping narrative history of the Chinese Exclusion Act through an intimate portrayal of one family's epic journey to lay down roots in America. The incredible tenacity and legacy of Chin's family strikes a particularly poignant chord as we witness this horrific rise in anti-Asian hate. As a fourth-generation Chinese American, Chin's understanding of our present moment is matched only by her utter mastery of its history. Gorgeously written, deeply researched, and tremendously resonant, Mott Street uncovers a legacy of exclusion and resilience that speaks to the American experience, both past and present. Chin doesn't simply transplant her family tree from the archives to the page. She breathes life into her ancestors. Here they are as captivating as the most compelling characters in a great novel. This book is perfect for readers of The Hare with the Amber Eyes, Crying in H Mart, and The Warmth of Other Suns.
And now we are moving on to literary and international fiction, starting with Blaze Me a Sun. In February 1986, the Halland police receive a phone call from a man who claims to have attacked his first victim. I'm going to do it again, he says, before the line cuts off. By the time policeman Sven Jorgensen reaches the crime scene, the woman is taking her final breath. For Sven, this will prove a divisive moment. On the same night, Sweden plunges into a state of shock after the murder of the prime minister. Could there possibly be a connection? As Sven becomes obsessed with the case, two more fall victim. For years, Sven remains haunted by the murders he cannot solve, fearing that the killer might strike again. Eventually, Sven retires from the police in defeat. Having failed to catch the killer, he passes his obsession on to his son, who has joined the force to be closer to his dad. Decades later, the case unexpectedly resurfaces when a novelist returns home to Halland after a failed marriage and sputtering career. The writer befriends a retired police officer, a former colleague of Sven's, who helps the novelist, our narrator, unspool the many strands of this engrossing tale about a community confronting its shames. Blaze Me a Sun is an elegantly constructed novel about the long shadows of violence and the elusive hunt for truth. A #1 bestseller in Sweden, it marks the American debut of the youngest winner of the Best Swedish Crime Novel of the Year award, the top prize for Swedish crime writers, whose past winners include Stieg Larsson and Henning Mankell.
Those Swedes sure know how to write some thrillers there. Really scary ones too.
Very dark.
Oh my goodness.
I'm very excited to talk to you about River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. This is rare, moving, and powerful. It's a beautiful, page-turning, and redemptive story of a mother's gripping journey across the Caribbean to find her stolen children in the aftermath of slavery. The master of the Providence plantation in Barbados gathers his slaves and announces that the king has decreed an end to slavery. As of the following day, the Emancipation Act of 1834 will come into effect. But the cries of joy are silent when he announces that they no longer are his slaves, but they're now his apprentices, and no one can leave. They must work for him for another 6 years. So freedom is just another name for the life they've always lived. And so Rachel, our main character, she runs. She runs away from Providence and she begins a desperate search to find her children, the 5 who survived birth when they were sold. Are any of them still alive? She has to know. And this is the story of Rachel and the extraordinary lengths to which a mother will go to find her children and her freedom. This unforgettable debut is for fans of Britt Bennett, Marie Benedict, and Yaa Gyasi. And Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo is a dazzling story of modern Nigeria and two families caught in the riptides of wealth, power, romantic obsession, and political corruption. Eniola is tall for his age, a boy who looks like a man. Because his father has lost his job, he spends his days running errands for the local tailor, collecting newspapers, begging when he needs to, and dreaming of a bigger future. Wariola is a golden girl, the perfect child of a wealthy family. Now an exhausted young doctor in her first year of practice, she is beloved by Kunle, the volatile son of an ascendant politician. When a local politician takes an interest in Eniola and sudden violence shatters a family party, Wariola's and Eniola's lives become intertwined. In her breathtaking second novel, Ayobami Adebayo shines her light on Nigeria, on the gaping divide between the haves and the have-nots, and the shared humanity that lives in between. This is for fans of Chimamanda Adichie, Maga Majumdar, Abidari, and Kylie Reid.
And up next is Dinner Party. This is a riveting, beautifully written, and poignant coming of age story about a heartrending complication of sibling relationships and the family or the trauma of family secrets, perfect for fans of Kate Atkinson, Maggie O'Farrell, and Anne Enright. Kate has taught herself to be careful, to be meticulous. To mark the anniversary of a death in her family, she plans a dinner party, from the fancy table settings to the perfect baked Alaska waiting in the freezer. Yet by the end of the night, old tensions have flared, the guests have fled, and Kate is spinning out of control. But all we have is ourselves, her father once said. All we have is family. Set between the 1990s and the present day, from a farmhouse in Carlow to Trinity College, Dublin, Dinner Party is a dark, sharply uh, observed debut told with sharp, elegant humor that thrillingly unravels into family secrets and tragedy.
Okay, so up next, Dirty Laundry, a debut by Disha Bose. So I was joking before our webinar started that if you heard the three of us talking, we should have our own like mom podcast, which I'm sure a lot of people feel like. So I think we need to start a book club with this one. This is for fans of stories about toxicity in suburbia, like Big Little Lies and The Push, and The Rumor. So this is a twisty domestic suspense debut about a clique of mothers that shatters when one of their own is murdered, bringing chaos to their curated lives. So it begins with someone who we meet who is the perfect wife with the perfect life. You would kill to have it. Ciara Dunphy has it all: a loving husband, well-behaved children, and a beautiful home. Her circle of friends in their small Irish village go to her for tips about mothering, style, and influencer success. A picture perfect life is easy money on Instagram. But behind the filters, reality is less polished. Then Ciara is found murdered in her own pristine home, and the house of cards she'd worked so hard to build comes crumbling down. Everyone seems to have something to gain from Ciara's death. So if they don't want the blame, it may be the perfect time to air their enemies' dirty laundry. So I think this is just such a good book club pick. I have to admit, like the book club that I'm in my neighborhood, we came together because we are moms with kids around the same age. So I think many of your patrons might find that this could be a really good book club pick for them too, especially if they have similarly like a mom book club. This is a compulsive read, as you might already be able to tell. It tackles topics perfect for book clubs because women will really recognize these complicated roles that we all play of couples today, our struggles with domestic life and marital disconnect or affairs or cliques or queen bees, you know, that never ends, right? It goes from high school all the way into adulthood. Who knew? Town gossip and the layered dynamics of female friendship. So this really has intersectional feminist appeal, and this is a lived experience for the author as well. She shares that she grew up in Calcutta and now with her Irish husband is raising a toddler in an Irish village. So her novel found inspiration from the pressures and the loneliness of young motherhood in this small town with mommy cliques, and in her own immigrant experience and what it means to raise a child in a foreign country. So there's just so much to discuss here. And in addition to that, a really good mystery and whodunit. And I think that all book clubs are going to want this one. So add more dirty laundry to your life. Who knew that you would want to have stacks of dirty laundry? But after this description, sign me up. And then finally, the Great Reclamation. So I will say that the cover will be revealed on Oprah Daily an hour after the buzz ends today at 1 p.m. So everybody go on to Oprah Daily and see the beautiful cover. I have to admit, I took a peek and it's really nice. So don't miss out. And this is by the fabulous Rachel Hang. You might recall that she had her debut, The Suicide Club, which received rave reviews, was translated into 10 different languages. And this is an even more ambitious and sweeping novel, and comes on the heels of her NEA grant. And she had a short story published in the New Yorker as well. So she has more and more fans since her debut. And this is a powerful love story. I'll give you a little bit about what it's about. This is set against a changing Singapore. This is a sweeping novel about one boy's unique gifts and the childhood love that will complicate the fate of his community and country. So Abun is born into a fishing village amid the heat and beauty of 20th century coastal Singapore in the waning years of British rule. He is a gentle boy who is not much interested in fishing, preferring to spend his days playing with the neighbor girl. But when he discovers he has the unique ability to locate bountiful movable islands that no one else can find, he feels a new sense of obligation and possibility, something to offer the community and impress the spirited girl he has come to love. So like I said, it's a love story. It's a coming of age story. It reckons with the legacy of British colonialism, World War II Japanese occupation, but also has a little bit of magic in it as well, as you can hear. And it's history made vivid is what we're saying. It's personal, it's political, it really captures history, but puts it in this setting that you're just going to be really beautifully brought into, and we can't wait for you to read it.
And next we have more book club picks. I know this presentation is just full of them, so here are a couple more. And first, in the Upper Country. In the 1800s in Dunmore, a Canadian town settled by people fleeing enslavement in the American South, young Lucinda Martin works for a crusading Black journalist. One night, a neighboring farmer summons Lucinda after a slave hunter is shot dead on his land by an old woman who recently arrived via the Underground Railroad. When the old woman refuses to flee before the authorities arrive, the farmer urges Lucinda to gather her testimony from her before she can be condemned for the crime. But the old woman doesn't want to confess. Instead, she proposes a barter, a story for a story. And so begins the extraordinary exchange of tales that reveal an interwoven history of Black and Indigenous peoples and a wide swath of what is called North America. As time runs out, Lucinda is challenged to uncover her past and face her fears in order to make good on the bargain of a story for a story. And it seems the old woman may carry a secret that could shape Lucinda's destiny. Traveling along the path of the Underground Railroad from Virginia to Michigan, from the indigenous nations around the Great Lakes to the Black refugee communities of Canada, in the Upper Country, weaves together unlikely stories of love, survival, and familial upheaval that map the interconnected histories of people of the North or people of North America in an entirely new and resonant way.
And next we have The Friendship Breakup by Annie Catherine, a fresh, clever, and complex debut mom-com that explores the ups and downs of friendship and what happens when the people you trust the most leave you high and dry.
Heard that before, a mom.
I don't know if I've ever heard of it either, but I
That's
think this is going to be like the next thing, mom-coms. Fallon Monroe, mother of one, self-help book junkie, and budding chocolatier, has always relied on her mom friends in the Chicago suburbs to get her through the trials of adulthood. So when her bestie, Beatrice, inexplicably starts ghosting her and taking all their mutual friends with her, Fallon's left wondering how everything went so wrong. Pushing down a lifetime of insecurities, Fallon doubles down and decides to win them back. But just when she's about to throw in the towel on the whole friendship mess, she reads a recently unearthed letter that she'd refused to deal with decades earlier, and reading it forces her to finally face the deep-seated fears she's desperately tried to bury. Now, looking at her friendships through fresh eyes, she must decide between hanging on and letting go. Fallon is an instantly likable heroine as she's vulnerable and determined, and she'll have readers eagerly turning the pages as they join her on this emotional journey into the hopes and fears of adulthood. This read is perfect for fans of Laura Henkin and Jennifer Weiner.
And obviously, when you have a book club, if she's a chocolatier, then you've got to have chocolate at the book club. I'm already.
I know that I threw that in there, but I kind of want to know more about the chocolatier part of this
I know.
mom life
Also,
that she's living.
why would they want to stop being friends with a chocolatier? That seems a little curious to me.
Not smart, not a good idea.
To those chocolatier friends.
And
Maureen present this one. We were like, come on.
Maureen will present Maureen by Rachel Joyce, a book about me. I'm just kidding. It's not. But if
I
it
would read that
was,
book.
I would read it too. I want to know what they were saying. What is Rachel Joyce saying about me? I never met her.
I don't know. It's scandalous.
This is fun. This is a novel told from the point of view of Harold's wife Maureen from The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. She's now undertaking her own journey and will discover a way to reconnect with the world that she's closed a door on. This already sounds a little like me, though.
Uh-oh. Although I think you need a British accent, so work on that.
Can you not? You don't get your not coming across my British accent. I thought everyone could hear it. Maureen Fry has settled into the quiet life she shares with her husband after his iconic walk across England 10 years ago. When an unexpected message from the north disturbs her equilibrium again, it's now her turn to make a journey. But Maureen is not like Harold. By turns outspoken, then vulnerable, she struggles to form bonds with the people she meets, and the landscape she crosses has radically changed. And Maureen has no sense of what she will find at the end of the road. All she knows is that she has to get there. Maureen is a deeply felt, lyrical, and powerful novel full of warmth and kindness about love, loss, and how we come to terms with the past in order to understand ourselves and our lives a little better. And while this book stands alone, it's also the extraordinarily moving finale to a trilogy that began with the phenomenal bestseller, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, and continued in the love song of Miss Queenie Hennessy. What was started by Harold, only Maureen can complete. Go buy it. Done.
You just want to end every meeting from now on with that. Only Maureen can complete. Or maybe you don't.
I'm done for the day. Yeah, I know. Maybe not.
Well, moving on to a debut from Janelle M. Williams. Gone Like Yesterday is a lyrical debut. It really incorporates music so beautifully, as you'll soon hear. It's a novel that asks what we owe to our families, what we owe to our ancestors, and what we owe to ourselves. So this employs magical realism, which I really love, and music to explore the haunting experience of being a Black woman in today's America. So we meet two Black women, Zara, a listless college prep coach, and Sammy, a teenage girl and a budding activist soon off to college, and they're drawn to each other through the songs of gypsy moths, which is where the magical realism and the music come in. And they embark on a road trip from New York to Atlanta to find Zara's missing brother. And they explore their connections with family, race, music, and activism, and the ancestors that haunt them. So, I mean, I love a good road trip story where people really connect. And this is definitely for fans of Kylie Reed, Britt Bennett, Celeste Ng, readers interested in novels written from female perspectives that touch on these timely topics like race and identity and family and legacy. And I think also especially readers who are interested in music. So I just want to quote here a beautiful quote from Disha Filia, who's the author of The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. She said, "There's so much music in the engrossing pages of Gone Like Yesterday, in the songs of mothers and daughters, brothers and sisters, would-be lovers, and the ancestors who watch over us. With lyricism and precision, Janelle M. Williams deftly captures the complicated beauty and chaos within our deepest relationships, a magical, mesmerizing debut." And we're just so thrilled to have this on the list. And I also think, given the age of Sammy and the coming of age aspect, it could also be a great YA crossover as well.
And then next we have On the Savage Side by Tiffany McDaniel. Arcade and Daffodil are twins born 1 minute apart. With their fiery red hair and thirst for escape, they form an unbreakable bond nurtured by their grandmother's stories. Together, they disappear into their imaginations and forge a world all their own. But what the sisters can't escape are the generational ghosts that haunt their family. Growing up in the shadow of their small Ohio town, the sisters cling tightly to one another. Years later, Arcade wrestles with the memories of her early life, just as a local woman is discovered drowned in the river. Soon, more bodies are found. As her friends disappear around her, Arcade is forced to reckon with the past while the killer circles closer. Arcade's promise to keep herself and her sister safe becomes increasingly desperate, and the powerful riptide of the savage side becomes more difficult to survive. Drawing from the true story of women killed in Ohio, acclaimed novelist and poet Tiffany McDaniel has written a moving literary testament of fearless elegy for missing women everywhere.
Now we're going to end this slide with something very different, American Mermaid by Julia Langbein. What I loved learning about this author is that she's a former stand-up comic. And so this, you can expect, is a very funny book. It's laugh out loud funny. She's a comedian. She's an accomplished academic as well. She's written about food and art and travel and has a wonderful website if you want to check out some of her previous writing. But we're so excited for American Mermaid. This follows a young woman. She's a broke English teacher, Penelope Schliemann, and she's as surprised as anyone when her feminist novel, American Mermaid, becomes a bestseller. And of course, then what's next after a bestseller? She quits teaching and she moves to LA to turn the novel into an action flick with the help of some studio hacks. But then she begins to get pressured to change her main character from this fierce, eco warrior to a teen sex object in a clamshell bra. And strange things start to happen. Threats appear in the screenplay. Siren calls lure Penelope's co-writers into danger. Is Penelope losing her mind, or has her mermaid come to life enacting revenge for Hollywood's violations? So I just love that this really is not only a funny, imaginative story, but then also has a lot to say about our world and about Hollywood and about feminism. And so I love this idea of mermaid who's perhaps fighting to let her true voice be heard. And of course, you think about the mermaid that's not giving up her voice, like another famous mermaid that we know. So this is a hilarious story about deep things and asks how far we'll go to protect the parts of ourselves that are not for sale. So I think this combination of humor with feminism is just the perfect combination for book clubs or for just sitting by yourself and laughing out loud and enjoying every minute of this novel, American Mermaid, coming in March. I can't wait.
And if you're looking for more book club recommendations and resources, we've got you covered. You can find book club suggestions at tinyurl.com/prhbookclubpicks and browse book club kits and book club brochures featuring discussion questions at tinyurl.com/prhbookclubresources.
And then I just wanted to add in some more book club picks here on the audio side. And these are books that I know you all know about. But just in case you didn't know about the amazing narration happening on the audio side of these books, I had to share. For example, Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng is read by Lucy Liu, and the audio features a note read by the author. So, of course, Lucy Liu is an award-winning actress we know from Charlie's Angels, Elementary. My personal favorite, she's an amazing guest star on her episode of Sesame Street where she plays Cinderella with the shoes.
I
And I
remember
say
Yes,
that.
I know.
Yes.
I think so
I just
genuinely.
watched that over the weekend.
So good. And I think it just goes to show, like, a really great actor can, act for anyone, and especially children. And she's just so truthful and so wonderful. And that comes through in this audio recording. This is her first solo audiobook recording, which seems hard to believe because her voice can be heard in numerous animated series and films. But I love the producer, Karen, of this audiobook, Karen Jakonski, wrote to me while she was in the studio this summer and said, I'm writing this note on break in the studio during day one of recording, and it sounds amazing. And Lucy Liu's bringing the author's beautiful writing into the audio realm with so much care and sensitivity for her characters. These people really connected. Lucy and Celeste connected on a Zoom call, and they just really, it's just such a perfect pairing, which I think really comes through in this recording. And Lucy Liu had to say this. She said, Celeste is such a beautiful writer. When I was asked if I would narrate her new novel, I was incredibly excited. She worked on Our Missing Hearts for 7 years, and it is spectacularly written and absolute poetry. Narrating a book in its entirety is a big task because you delve into the process of what the author is trying to express, the characters, and through the story. And I hope listeners understand the impact of Celeste's words about discrimination, racism, separating children from their families, and the impact it has on humanity. So like I said, you already know this, you've already made this a library reads pick, but to hear directly from a narrator who we already love and admire about how much she connects with the incredible material that Celeste is putting into the story here, I just think it just brings even another layer of meaning and beauty to getting to hear this performed. And so if you would like to hear it, don't miss out. You can check it out on the PRHA app, which I'll send information out in our wrap up. But if you're not already verified as a librarian, we would love to add you. So I'll send more information about that, but it's available and it's really a special recording. And then next up, 2 more that I don't want you to miss. George Saunders is already quite famous, I think, for full cast recordings. Lincoln in the Bardo had well over 100 narrators, was an audiobook of the year winner, and he really has the pressure on him, I think, when an audiobook comes out, and he never disappoints. Liberation Day is coming very soon on October 18th. It's written by George Saunders. It's read by George Saunders, but with some additional guests. Tina Fey, you may have heard of, Michael McKean, Edie Patterson, Jenny Slate, Jack McBrayer, Melora Hardin, and Stephen Root. So this is another wonderful full cast production. He's, of course, a MacArthur Genius, a Booker Prize winner, and these narrators are just so much fun to listen to. This includes 4 never before published stories, in addition to 5 stories that were previously published in the New Yorker. So this is a total of 9 stories, and this is his first story collection in 8 years. So his last one, 10th of December, was, of course, a New York Times bestseller and a finalist for the National Book Award. So we can expect nothing less than more brilliance from him and his friends here on the audiobook, and it's just going to be so much fun to listen to. And then finally on this slide, this is a really interesting 2-volume set from, well, I shouldn't say 2-volume set, they're coming out on separate publication dates, but they very much are connected, The Passenger and Stella Maris by Cormac McCarthy. So this brings 3 of, I think, some of the most beloved narrators in the business to the forefront here. McLeod Andrews and Julia Whalen are paired on the first one, The Passenger, which is the story of a salvage diver who's haunted by loss, and he finds a sunken jet with 9 bodies still buckled in their seats. And missing from the crash are the pilot's flight bag, the plane's black box, and the 10th passenger. So it's a bit of a mystery. And then in Stella Maris, Julia Whalen's on the recording again, and this time she's paired with Eduardo Ballerini. And this is an amazing audiobook as well, because it's told entirely through the transcripts of Alicia's psychiatric sessions. And you'll see how Alicia is connected to the diver who we meet in The Passenger. So it's all very connected. And I just love the idea. I've actually seen photos in the studio of Eduardo and Julia behind the mic together in the room, really playing off of each other. So it's recorded very much almost like a play and in dialogue. And so I think that's just a really extraordinary thing to get to hear from two of the best in the business and from one of our favorite writers. So don't miss that. And then lastly, should I get my witch's hat back on, Maureen? We have two very appropriate spooky season audio first productions. So what does audio first mean? It means you can only hear it on audio first. The ebooks will go on sale in December and January, respectively, but Bad Dolls by Rachel Harrison and Ghost 19 by Simone St. James are not to be missed. These are both Library Reads authors. These tales prove that there's nothing better than hearing a scary story told aloud. And these are just very special. Rachel Harrison, I know, is already beloved by all of you. And this has a great cast, as you can see on the slide there. And it's read by multiple narrators, and there's stories in here that explore themes of body image, complicated female friendship, heartbreak, and of course, hauntings. And in Ghost 19, read by Brittany Presley, a woman moves to a town where she becomes obsessed with watching the lives of her neighbors while she's stuck in a house that refuses to let her leave. Is she trapped by a ghost or her own madness? You'll have to listen to find out, and that went on sale this week. So don't miss these special audio first productions. And that's it. We're just a minute over. Thanks for sticking around. Happy fall, everybody. And we hope you got lots of ideas of what to read this fall and into the coming 2023. And November 2nd, we'll have even more for you. We'll be back again with more buzz.
Don't forget to take the horror quiz. Find out before Halloween.
Yes, definitely. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.